Hello, my friends. Are you ready for a deep chat? Can we have deep chats? So maybe you need some coffee. Maybe you need a little snacky snack, a little chill time. I thought maybe we could talk deep things. Are you up for that? I love having fun. But you know how this brain of mine works. It's always thinking, always working through stuff. And I just had some stuff on my mind that I thought I would share because it's just, it's kind of fun. So the other day I was watching something and it was like a clip for Celine Dion's documentary. I think it's coming out at the end of June. And I was watching some clips of her life in this, like advertisement for this documentary. And it was so exciting, this big time in her life. She's on the stage, she's doing her Celine Dion thing and singing and just gorgeous voice. And now she's walking through life having a rare disease that's causing it to be very difficult for her to sing. And it just sort of dawned on me, I think for the millionth time, it's something that you just come back to, that this life is so short and we have zero knowledge of what is to come. Life can change for the better or for the worse just in a split second. So I was looking at that and I look at the times when I'm worried or I'm anxious or I'm stressed or I fear something, maybe a health issue. I hate to admit it, but I really do have a lot of fear around health stuff just because I watched my mom die from cancer, and I watched Marcus's mom go through her struggle and then eventually pass away from cancer, and just different people in my life that I've known who have walked through really hard things, whether their husband died when they were really young or a myriad of things. And so oftentimes I take those and I think, any minute I could get bad news. Any minute something terrible could happen. And it causes me to have a lot of fear. And Marcus and I were talking about this week, and I know and I recognize this isn't healthy, right? Like, we can't live in fear. And I wouldn't say it's this all-consuming thing, but when I'm at my deep parts of life or I'm struggling, that's where my brain goes to. There's lots of days I don't think about it at all. And then there's other days I think about it a lot. And I was watching Celine Dion do her little whatever from her past and her career, thinking she had no idea how much her life was going to change, when her husband passed away or when she got this rare disease and now she's dealing with that. And it encouraged me to live life fully just where I'm at. Someday I may have to deal with that, but it's not now. And so I can enjoy this moment and I can be present in this moment and I can appreciate this moment for what it is. And while there's still a place where we should take care of our bodies and we should make good decisions to help our bodies, feel good and work properly. If you think about your body as a machine, you want to give it the right things to work properly. But at the end of the day, no matter how well you take care of it, life can still happen. And so it was just an encouragement to me, something that I've been thinking on, of making sure that I am enjoying this moment and appreciating the moment for now. So perhaps it is somewhat of being thankful and being grateful for what I have now. And also to not dwell on what could be, because what could be could never happen. What could be could happen. What could be, just really steals from the now. And there's a scripture, if you're at all into scripture and from the Bible, where he says, check out the birds over here, the sparrow. They do not do anything. They don't have to worry about clothes. They don't worry about where their next meal is coming from. Like, they just do what life does for a bird, and that God says, I care for them and I make sure that they're cared for. How much more do you think I care for you? And when you're going through a hard time, or when things don't feel good, or things are really traumatic or difficult, it's difficult to think, well, you're caring for me. And I was thinking back to some times in my life that were really dark and really difficult and really hard, and going, this doesn't feel even a little bit good. It doesn't really feel like you're with me because you're not stopping this. In our human thinking, in our human mind, we're like, you would stop the hard, but that isn't always the case. So that song, his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. He does watch me. And that there is really a time for everything, and to be present and to be here in this moment. There's another old song, this one maybe, it says, turn your eyes upon Jesus, look full in his wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of his glory and grace. And you sort of think, when I teach my brain, hey, listen, we're not going to dwell on the negative. Negative is going to happen. The bad is going to happen. In our brains, man, they're so good at thinking about those things and on dwelling on those things. It actually is quite a test, quite a workout to set our mind on something else. And I'm learning over the years how to do that. You know, maybe you throw on a song when you're starting to feel down, or maybe you call somebody so that you can kind of move past that really difficult time. Or what's helpful for me is talking things out. That's what I love about this sort of avenue. And so you learn different things to help you through those times that are really difficult. And I've found that turning my eyes away from that is so helpful, but it's recognizing that I have to turn my attention away from maybe that negative or maybe those difficult things, because they're real and they're there and we can't just deny them. But the dwelling on them and the focusing, making that the focus, is so counterproductive, right? So all that to say, that's kind of the thing I've been thinking about, and really enjoying the now and saying, okay, yeah, maybe someday I will get cancer. I pray I won't. I never want to see somebody go through that. And if you're going through that, I'm so sorry. But maybe I won't. And so I will have spent all this time worrying about something that there is some control over, and then in some ways there's not. And to let life just come as it comes, and to appreciate the now and not worry about what could be or what should be or what will be. It's just here and now. And there's, of course, making good decisions that will lead to hopefully future things that will be good. But even in that, there's no guarantee. I was talking to a friend today at church who had what did he call it? An aorta. It like broke away from his body, kind of a thing, and he could have died very easily. And it took them hours and hours and hours to find what this issue was. And they said, we're so shocked that you're here and that you're alive, because one, this is a type of thing doesn't happen to young people that are healthy. He was a healthy young man. This is something we see in like people that are in their 70s and 80s. And, you know, he wasn't feeling well for a couple of days before he went in, because he was trying to figure out what was going on. He just didn't know. So, you know, you look at that and you think, you know, he had no idea that was coming, and he just got on with it. You know, you take care of business and trying to get back to life and do what you've got to do. It's so mind-boggling and interesting to me. And then the other thing that I've been really contemplating on is this idea that the Bible talks about. I didn't mean for this to be all like spiritual, but it's just what my brain is thinking through. But, you know, in my life, you know, you're trying to figure out, what do I do with this part of my life? Or how do I work through that thing? Even simple stuff, you know, how do I eat better? Or how do I make sure I take care of myself? Or how do I help with my kids? Or everything, how could I, blah, blah, blah. And about last year, I'd known the scripture forever and a day, but it really changed the way that I prayed last year. And it says in James 1, it says, if you don't know what to do, you know, if you need wisdom, which, why do you need wisdom? Because you don't know what to do. If you need wisdom, ask, and God will give it to you. And I've heard that lots of times. I think, oh yeah, sure. No, like really. God has been so kind and so faithful that when I have asked him for his wisdom, sometimes it's within seconds, it's within minutes, and sometimes it comes a little later on. But I can think of like simple examples, you know, working through some school stuff with my kids and trying to say, Lord, I really need wisdom on how to help them with this particular aspect of school, because they're not getting it, and I don't know how to help them. And then he might lead me to a website or to a person. Like I just happen to kind of stumble upon something, or an idea pops in my mind that I hadn't, you know, I don't know where I got that idea. And I feel like God's just been so faithful to grant us wisdom over and over and over again. I wish I could tell you all of the miraculous ways that he has given us wisdom over the last year, really the last year, that have changed our lives significantly. And it's not because I pray well or because I have anything good to say. It's just because God is good to his word, and he has been so kind to answer our prayers and to be, to do what he says he will do. He says, if you ask for wisdom, I'll give it to you. And when that became true for me, when I realized, oh, like he really means it, it's a comfort to know that when I don't know what to do, God does, and I can ask him to guide me and lead me, and he will. It's like he's just been faithful over and over again to answer that question. And it's not because I'm right enough or that I'm doing the right things or I say the right things. It's just because of him, because of who he is. And I just have thought about that so much, and I wanted to encourage you. Perhaps you don't know what to do with this situation or that situation, or you just need wisdom with how to handle something. And perhaps you pray and you ask the Lord to be faithful to his word when he says, when you ask for wisdom, listen, I'm going to give it to you. And if you'll just trust that he will come around, and it might not seem like this blaring, obvious thing. Some of the time, I think I was working with one of the kids and I just said, Lord, I just need some wisdom. I mean, within a minute or two, this idea popped in my head and I went, oh, well, that would work. And then it worked. Okay, I like it. Okay, I'll take it. And what was the other thing I was thinking about? It was something good. I just know it. You're going to love it when I tell it to you. I remember what the other thing is. I read the book Atomic Habits. How many of you have read it? Let me know in the comments. It's from 2018, a little bit older book, but I'd heard about it a lot and I didn't really, I don't know, it wasn't like, oh, I gotta read this. But then all of a sudden I needed an audiobook to download and I'd heard somebody else talk about it. So I thought, well, I'm gonna give it a go. And it talks about doing these tiny little things to help you reach your goal. There was, I believe it was a soccer team or was it a bicycling type thing? They got a new coach and they were like always losing. They were doing terrible. And he started making these little incremental changes. I mean, the tiniest little changes, and having them sort of rate themselves on how these changes were going, and got to the place where they're better and better and better. And then they started winning and they started doing well. And not that every story has to end with this great happy ending, but oh, there's a butterfly. I love the butterflies. Whenever you are trying to achieve something, I don't know if you're like me, but I am like this gung-ho, all in, gotta do it all. I don't do well with the incremental. And so it's easy for me to burn out and to sort of lose the love and feeling when you really have to put the work into it, because most things in our life take work. And so how do we challenge ourselves to stick with that? How do we keep motivated? How do we keep going when we don't feel like it? Because it's very likely that after the first, like say you're losing weight or you're working out or you want to take a class with something, getting signed up is great. Like you're super excited. Oh, this is going to be so great. And my whole life's going to change. I'm just going to never give up. I'm never giving up. And then, 3 weeks in or 3 days in or 3 hours in, you're like, I'm giving up. I'm over it. This is not fun anymore, because it takes time. And I was following, when I was really last year doing a lot of weightlifting, I was following 2 women, and people would always ask them, well, how long did it take for you to really see these results of you getting stronger and leaner and more fit and all of that? And it really annoyed them because people want this quick fix, right? But they said, this has been years of keeping at it, even when I don't feel like it. And it was a little bit discouraging because you're like, you want the quick fix. But at the same time, you can imagine, okay, if I keep at this and I don't stop, where will I be? I'll certainly be further along than I am if I don't do it at all. So how do I keep that part of my brain going and enticed into doing this thing when the results aren't big and huge and exciting, and it's not Las Vegas show lights, and it's not, firecrackers and fireworks in the air, when it's just boring and you get to the gym and you're like, I don't actually want to do this, which I just did that 2 weeks ago. I got my gym clothes on, I went to the gym, I walked on the stair stepper for 10 minutes and I was like, I actually just don't even want to today. wasn't feeling it. I was exhausted. And so I left and I went and got coffee and I drove around and just relaxed, and that was good. That was okay. I don't want that to be every day, but it was good. And so one of the things that it talks about is kind of coupling up your habits with other things. Like, for instance, do you brush your teeth every night? If you do, perhaps you couple that up with, washing your face. Maybe you want to get better at washing your face at night. Megan, you need to get better at washing your face at night. Yes, I'll work on that. Thank you so much. So you put the rag next to the toothbrush and you put the face soap next to the toothbrush. And when you brush your teeth, because you do it already every night, you don't even think about it, you're going to pick up that face wash and you're going to pick up the cloth and you're going to wash your face. And you're going to keep doing it until you don't have to think about it anymore. Or you're really bad at taking your vitamins and you really want to take them, but you're really good at drinking your coffee because you've made that a habit and you don't have to think about it anymore. It's just part of who you are. So you set your vitamins out the night before by the coffee pot. Now, when you get up to make your coffee, boom, you take the pills. You're more likely to do it than if they weren't sitting there. I love it. I love the idea of it. I've been thinking through so many things, and I feel like I've had these really nice little tweaks throughout the day that might seem so minuscule and so insignificant, but really they're very significant because as they build upon each other, for instance, let me give you this thought. I'm reading a book to the kids called Grain of Rice, and I've read it to Israel when he was younger, and now I'm reading it to the next set of kids for school. So there's this poor guy named Pang Lo. He wants to marry the princess. And the emperor's like, I mean, you're cool and all, but that's not a thing. Like, we don't do that here. Peasant people don't become princes or whatever, princesses' husbands. But he was so wise and so smart. And so the emperor started having him work in the kitchen and doing stuff and in the storage room, and he just kept proving him to be a really great at all of it. And eventually the princess falls in love with him, but they can't be together. So she gets really sad. She's not eating, like she's gonna die. It's really gotten bad. And all of these people, he calls all these people in to make these special elixirs and soups and medicines and potions to help her get better. And she doesn't get better. But then Pang Lo makes a concoction of whatever and says to whoever is bringing this to the princess, make sure she knows that I made it. Which, spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure, it's not really a spoiler alert, it's just my own thought. I don't think that the drink that he gave her really was the reason she got better. I think it was Pang Lo that made it. And so now she's like, oh yes, I love him. And so she starts getting better, and the emperor is so elated by this and says, anything you want, like you can have it. And he says, I want to marry your daughter. And he's like, so sorry, that's not going to happen. And he said, I'll give you houses. I'll give you land. You can have servants. You can have all this stuff. And he's like, nope, want to marry your daughter. And he's like, I can't do that. Like, it's against the law or whatever it was. So he said, okay, how about this? Every day for 30 days, you give me a grain of sand or a grain of rice that gets doubled every day. So the first, and the emperor was like, no, this is ridiculous. So he says, no, that's what I want. So the first day he brings it to him on this little platter, 1 grain of rice. And now the next day it has to double. So now he's 2. And then it's 8, 4 and 8 and 16. And it gets all the way up to 5 million and da-da-da-da for the day. And eventually he gets all the rice in China. And they have to try to get all this rice from somewhere. All that to say, we haven't gotten to the end of the book, and I can't remember it from the last time, but I'm pretty sure he's going to get married to the princess for some reason. Somehow the law is going to get changed because now he's got all this stuff. I don't know. All that to say, it started with that 1 grain of rice, and then it doubled, right? And then this is like an MLM. Multi-level marketing? No, it's not like that. But it's those little things that we build upon. And had we not done the tiny little baby step. Any of you seen Bob Wiley, the movie What About Bob? And he's got all these problems, and the doctor says, I've written this book. It's called Baby Steps. And it's doing these little baby steps to help you through it. And so he goes, baby step to the window, baby step to the elevator, baby steps to over here or whatever to get over his issues. And that we can do that same thing, these little baby steps into becoming whatever it is, whatever you're working on, whether it be a language, or you're working on cooking more, or you're working on shopping better, or you're working on exercising, or blah, 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 writing letters to friends. Or it all starts with those little things that you do and making them a part of your day. So those have been on my mind. The whole like being present in the now, the little baby steps, the little things that you do that really have a big impact, as well as the other thing I told you that I can't remember at the moment. Oh yeah, praying for wisdom. Praying for wisdom. It's all just been culminating in my mind now for quite some time, and I can see the effects of it. One of the things that I'm doing for the habits. So before we leave somewhere, I've been making it a point, and I don't do it every time, but I've been making it a point that I start the dishwasher. And so that means making sure that everything's in the dishwasher. And it's just like one of those things that I'm trying to connect that habit. If you're gonna leave the house, Megan, just start the dishwasher. And start the washing machine. That's the other thing I've been working on, so that keep up with the laundry. The kids help with the dishes a lot too, but sometimes there's just extra stuff. And so it's just a habit now to make sure that it gets started. And I like it. I like it a lot. Keeping up on laundry a little bit better than I was, although I could work on it. I could always be working on it. It's just one of those never-ending mountains of reminders that you have a family, and that's great. I'll take the reminder that I have a family and we live here and we wear stuff and we use towels and we're alive and we're doing well, you know? So that's on my brain cells. A little deeper thought today. Maybe not as light and happy, but not sad for sure. I love having those revelations and those moments where you go, yeah, like that's good. I need to remember that. I need to make that part of my thinking. Definitely. So anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So you guys, hope you're doing well. Anything on your brain cells these days? Any thoughts? I would love to hear about them in the comments. We got good stuff coming this week. Prepare yourselves. It's gonna be great. Gonna be great. And happy June, friends. Happy June. And we'll talk to you guys really soon. Toodaloo.